What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm DFS NBA live stream. John Impemba here with James Grande, previewing Thursday's sixth-game DFS NBA main slate. What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to the weekend and the DFS NBA
very
live stream.
close to
John
coming.
Impemba here. We have that TNT six-game slate to get through tonight. Some interesting matchups. We got some injury news that we have to get to, as well as some big names not playing tonight. Open up a lot of value within the last hour or so.
Yeah, primarily the Kyle Lowry news is what you're alluding to, at least in the last hour. And then plus we have the Minnesota Timberwolves are just a dumpster fire right now. We don't know who's going to play on a nightly basis. I mean, it seems like they've been sitting more often than they've been playing lately. Yeah. But Wiggins questionable, T questionable, Rose questionable, and Karl-Anthony Towns probable. Jason Tatum's going to play. Marcus Smart's going to play. Terry Rozier's not going to play. Right. Daniel Tice is not going to play. Luka Doncic not on the injury report. We were kind of speculating last night if he was going to play after the comments that he made. He is going to play. Other than that, we're kind of sitting where we're going to, we're just kind of waiting the Timberwolves. That's right. Honestly what we're waiting on right now. When we go over to Vegas, we do have some interesting spreads. Now, they were bigger before. The Toronto-LA game was double digits, and then the Kyle Lowry news broke, and it's down to 8, the spread there. It was in a 231 total. So that's definitely interesting. Interesting game stack. Boston-Sacramento is a nice 227 total. Denver-Dallas is an 11.5-point spread. That's currently the biggest spread on the board. Every game that we have other than Oklahoma City, Indiana is 7.5 or bigger in terms of spread. So, I mean, not the funnest cash game slate to play, but, I mean, we got to make it work. 6-game slate, definitely still cash game viable. So, I'm leaning more GPP-oriented lineups tonight, especially considering these big spreads. I mean, you never know what can happen on spreads that are 7.5 or bigger. So, more GPP slate, but still some cash games to be won as well.
For sure. James, before we break it down, we got to, again, talk about this deal that we have going on the site. MLB and NFL season, one package together. We want you to win your fantasy baseball and your fantasy football championship this year. We want to take you from your draft to the trophy. For strictly a limited time only, we offer both packages for $97. Less than $100, you're getting both the MLB season and the MLB NFL package together as one. With the baseball package, you get Jim Button's draft guide, the ultimate cheat sheet, in-season coverage, including League Sync to help you win all your season leagues, plus complete DFS coverage with playbooks, rankings, optimal lineups, and over 30 tools, including a lineup generator that supports 6 sites. 6 DFS sites. Our lineup generator gets you there with that. Plus deep coverage for all NFL all the way to the Super Bowl. We're here to help you directly at all times as well for all sports. We offer live chat 12 hours a day, all your personal questions about your draft, during the season. We're here to help you. Go to fantasyalarm.com/MLB season now at checkout to get this deal. Again, it's $97. Less than $100. You're getting both the MLB and NFL package. fantasyalarm.com/MLB season. Pay once and win through the Super Bowl. Can't beat it. Absolutely can't beat it.
Win through the Super Bowl, and in case you guys haven't realized, the NFL season hasn't even started yet. So take advantage of this deal, please.
James, let's kick it off, huh? Shall we?
We shall.
Let's start off at the point guard spot. We do have Russell Westbrook on this slate at the top. He went off for huge points the other day, and this is always the risk when I talk about fading Westbrook in slates, because he has this ceiling. And there was a matchup against Brooklyn that he went for 31 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 72 fantasy points over on DraftKings. He gets a matchup tonight, a good defensive team in the Indiana Pacers, the number 1 ranked team against point guards this year. How are you feeling about paying up for Westbrook tonight? He's $11,300 on FanDuel. He's $10,900 on DraftKings.
I mean, the price tag is great. And we kind of should have thought about it, considering he went for 70 the first time against Brooklyn, and last night he does it again. So let's just jot that down for next year's matchups.
Right.
Russell Westbrook against Brooklyn, money in the bank. Tonight, I don't think it's necessary. I know we could point chase, and I don't really even know if it's considered point chasing because there's Russell Westbrook and he's a walking triple double. But you
Right.
mentioned they're number one defensively against point guards. I mean, they're number one defensively in defensive rating as a team. So do we need to do it? No. I think Kyrie Irving is the better play at the top.
Yep.
To be
Yep.
perfectly honest with you, and we've attacked Sacramento all year. Basically, I mean, point guard center is really the two positions we've really honed in on against Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox is a terrible defender. I mean, he's improving, but he's not to the point where like, oh man, De'Aaron Fox.
Right.
You see that last game, he played great defense. Like that's not something that anyone has said ever. So I'm loading up on Kyrie Irving. I'm not going to miss this opportunity. Plus, there's no Terry Rozier now.
Right.
I mean, yeah,
He played 35 minutes against Portland when Rozier was off the floor. Now I know Kyrie plays all those minutes anyways, but it just shortens up their rotation. They didn't even go to Brad Wanamaker. They used I think they used 7 guys. It was like they had Hayward and Brown both played almost 30 minutes off the bench, and then it was a starting 5. They played everybody in their starting 5 against the Blazers that game with no Rozier and just the 2 guys off the bench. If we get that tonight, if we're guaranteed pretty much a 7-man rotation with everybody playing 30-plus minutes, and this matchup against the Kings is going to be a lot of fantasy points scored.
Yeah, and again, we save a ton of money, and I'm not saying we need to. Like, there is enough value tonight if you want to pay up for Russell Westbrook and have a comfortable build elsewhere. There is a lot of good value tonight, but there's a lot of really good like next tier players. Right. I mean, with the Kyle Lowry news, we shifted Kawhi, who's also like 8, 9, 10K. So like you could pair Kawhi and you pair Kyrie, you're gonna have a more comfortable build than you would if you paired like Westbrook and Kyrie or Westbrook and Kawhi. So sure. I'm leaning Irving for a lot of different reasons. But again, if you want to play Russell Westbrook, we saw last night he had 70-plus point upside. So be my guest.
Yeah, we always preference that. Like, we're not telling you not to play him. We just think that on certain slates there may be better options to do so. If we go down sort of the pricing list, what's that next tier of guards that you're looking at?
So I think Jamal Murray for a tournament. I think he's fine for a tournament. I think Darren Collison for a cash game. Yep. Now, a lot has changed, obviously, with the Kyle Lowry news. So, like, I don't know if there's going to be any ownership on Darren Collison. So, I mean, if you want to play it from that perspective, I think it's fine. But then we drop down and we look at guys like Colin Sexton with no Dellavedova, who's really cheap on DraftKings, at least $5,000, 26 actual points or more in 3 straight.
Strong cash gameplay.
Right. DJ Augustine, who's, without Isaiah Briscoe, is playing 30-plus minutes, and he's getting us 20-plus fantasy points every single night. Plus, his price tag doesn't rise. Now, with the Kyle Lowry news, we have Jeremy Lin. The question I have, and, we haven't gotten the starting lineup yet, and I do think Lin starts, but also I could see Patrick McCaw, starting, and he could be a big point guard. So, I mean, I guess that would factor into my decision-making a little bit with Jeremy Lin. I think Jeremy Lin's a lock as of right now. I mean, he's min salary on FanDuel, $3,800 on DK. So, I think Jeremy Lin's a great play. My mind would change slightly if Patrick McCaw were to start. I think Jeremy Lin would become close to a must-play, but not as locked in as he was when he was quote the starter.
Right. Is that what you see tonight? Do you think that McCaw would be a guy that starts?
I mean, so he started for Kawhi, and I know it's different because it's different position, but we saw McCaw with Golden State start at point guard when Steph Curry was injured at times, and he played alongside Steph Curry at times starting. So now he started for 2 different really good teams. I don't know. It's just speculation, and I just want to throw out the possibility.
I agree.
And we've also seen Lin be a bench player the last couple seasons. So
sure.
I mean, maybe they just prefer to bring him off the bench. I don't know. We just got to cover our asses,
I agree. McCaw is a shooting guard on FanDuel, which is fine because we're going to talk about shooting guards right now. At the top, you have Donovan Mitchell on FanDuel at $9,800. You have Luka Doncic now not even on the injury report, which makes no sense based off his previous comments just the other day. He's at 96, and that's a big gap price-wise. At the top, those 2 guys, are you into any of them?
I do want to just throw Brandon Knight's name into the player pool for point guard as well.
Okay, that works.
Starting again, no Dellavedova, 25 to 26 minutes every night, 23 fantasy points more. It's kind of like the Paul George thing we were talking about last night, at least on FanDuel. Like, it's such a thin position that I think Mitchell, especially in cash games, makes sense. I don't know how much they're going to extend Ricky Rubio after playing last night and being limited. Like, what all of a sudden like would click in their head, be like, you know what, let's let Rubio go after being limited the night before. I don't know. I think Mitchell makes a lot of sense on FanDuel for cash because it's a scarce position. We know we're going to get right now coming out of Donovan Mitchell, it's like 40 fantasy points minimum. So he'd almost get us to the 5X. I think Doncic is okay, and our ownership projections is pretty high on him. I think it's more of a game stack situation. Like, the only way Dallas stays in that game is if Luka Doncic goes off, right?
Triple doubles or something.
Right. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. We've seen Luka Doncic do some pretty amazing things in his 19-year-old season. You know, I mean, it's been pretty incredible. So I'm not going to put it past him, but I think it's strictly a game stack where you're playing Luka, maybe like Maxi Kleber, and then you're stacking the other side with, you know, guys like Jokic or Millsap or Barton, or because Denver has like the highest implied total on the board. So, you know, it's hard to just ignore that. To get pieces of Denver, you probably also should play pieces of Dallas. And I think Luka is obviously the choice. 8,400, I will say, on DraftKings is really enticing. 8,400 for Luka Doncic is really, really, really cheap. So
yeah, I thought that too the other night, and he turned like the worst free throw performance I've ever seen.
Yeah,
of it. He went 1 for 9 from the line. Where did that come from? As I mentioned, it's a big drop in price. After that, we have a Buddy Hield. We have the 2 Orlando guys and Ross and Fournier on FanDuel. We have Bogdan, Clarkson, Marcus Smart, as I mentioned, is probably going to play a bunch of minutes if you based off the last game with Noah Rozier. What are you looking at sort of this next year? Jaylen Brown, Dennis Schroeder, routed off like 5 guys there, but they're from like the 6,500 to 5K range.
I'm like disgusted in this tier. I think Buddy Hield, his price on FanDuel is really, really, really enticing, and I think he's going to garner a lot of ownership. He had a really good game against Boston the first meeting. Yep. So I don't think it's something we should, like, I don't think low ownership on FanDuel at least should be something we expect. DraftKings, we could just obviously play a point guard, shooting guard, or small forward, shooting guard, thankfully, because it's ugly. I don't necessarily love the Orlando guys. Like, I think Fournier is just really falling off a cliff. I mean, I think the emergence of Aaron Gordon has really impacted Fournier. Like, Gordon looking for his shot more is obviously impacting Fournier because now Fournier is what? The third option? Even Augustine playing better offense. Jonathan Isaac. So, like, I don't necessarily – I'd play Ross of the two just because we know that's one guy that's not afraid to shoot, period. Like, he took 15 shots last night. He made 2 of them, but – you know, just to take 15 and only make 2 just says a lot about the guy. He's never seen a shot he doesn't like. I liked Jaylen Brown when Marcus Smart wasn't going to play. I have less interest in him. Now, it is interesting you brought up the 7-man rotation because that's going to mean he's going to play minutes. I guess
he played 30 minutes in a double-double against Portland when Rozier sat, and it was legitimately him and Hayward played 30 minutes off the bench, and then it was the starting 5. Like, they didn't use anybody. They really didn't use anybody else.
Probably Baines sprinkled in, right, to give Horford.
No, I think Baines was even out of that game. Let me pull up the box score real quick. They had like Robert Williams out there for a couple minutes.
Daniel Tice played 10 minutes. So Baines
played 10 minutes. Yeah.
No, Tice.
Tice did. Okay. So yeah, Baines was out, but you can now flip in Baines for the 10 minutes that Tice played, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's just they didn't really use anybody else. So
would you trust Jaylen? Okay, then ultimately, let's game theory and say he plays 30 minutes. Do you trust him in cash games?
I don't.
Based on it's also
I wouldn't trust Jaylen in cash, but he's a GPP play for sure.
Where else would you go in cash? Like, it's bad. Like, maybe Wes Matthews because OKC sucks against shooting guards. But this is what I was kind of saying. Like, when you're playing FanDuel, at least, you play Mitchell or Doncic, unfortunately, because there's not many other options, or you play Hield, and then you just plug in Monty Morris, who's probably going to be the play of the slate.
Yeah, we talked about Monty Morris last time on the podcast. We talked about shorting rotations. They came out. Denver said they're going to play an 8-man. Monty Morris has been in that rotation. Really cheap as well. Good value. You're getting him at 3,900 over on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, Morris is priced out at
Yeah,
$3,500, and he's played what?
It's just a lock,
Yeah, he's
man.
played 27 and 29 minutes each of the last two games, and this was the role that he played beginning of the year when guys like Harris and Barton were in the lineup, and Monty Morris came off the bench as like their backup guard and played really well. So we're seeing that again now that is back probably in that comfortable spot, and the fact that they have shortened their rotation, he's locked for the playing time. So yeah, Monty Morris definitely the value play down there. Anybody else at shooting guard that's jumping out at you? KCP, you know?
I liked him. I don't know. Like, you can if you want to play him in a tournament. I think that's a really nice game stack. Lakers Toronto.
Did you mention Rondo? Did you say that?
I did not mention Rondo. I think Rondo's fine for tournaments as well.
Because now there's no Kyle Lowry defense.
Now,
and we're
no
getting
Kyle Lowry defense.
National television Rondo now with no Kyle Lowry defense.
It's a real thing, ladies and gentlemen. National TV Rondo is actually a real
Google
thing.
It. There's like a whole article written about it. It's crazy.
I guess KCP, like in tournament, we know we don't trust him in anything more than a tournament. So if you want to play him in a tournament, lock and load there.
I agree. At small forward, LeBron James at the top. He's 11,000 on FanDuel. Paul George is 10,000. Kawhi is at 97. Those are the top three price small forwards on tonight's slate. I like them all, but last night I had a different opinion of Paul George going into today than I have now. One, he actually shot the ball a little bit better last night. Gave us a 50-point game. Again, Brooklyn's terrible defensively. Both him and Westbrook went off, but like I said, I want to see him have a good game and then watch it continue. Now he gets to go back to Indiana, and I know you pointed out that last year in his return to the Pacers, Indiana, he was terrible. But I'm gonna continue to play sort of that revenge narrative. Bojan's not a good defender. If he's gonna be the guy that's on him, Jordan's intriguing to me at 10K. I still think LeBron, even at a minutes limit, because he played 33 the other day, is still the top guy, though.
So I've completely flipped. I think Kawhi is now the top guy without Kyle Lowry. And it's basically, at least on DraftKings, where he gets a 37% usage. He averages 1.4 fantasy points per minute without Kyle Lowry off the floor. Okay. Now, it's obviously a different team, maybe with Marc Gasol, but, Serge Ibaka is not afraid to shoot either. So it's not like they're kind of similar in, the way they soak up usage. So I don't think Kawhi Leonard's would take much of a dip. 8.7K is too cheap. I think he's a lock and load for me. Then I have LeBron, and then I put Paul George third. I don't like the fact that he played Indiana twice last year and was terrible in both. And, last year. This is very different Paul George. This is an MVP caliber Paul George. Second night of a back-to-back. Maybe he's a little tired. Indiana, the shoulder's still a thing. Indiana's a good defensive team. I'm not saying don't do it. It's I put him in the Russell Westbrook category. He can go off at any time. I'm just ranking Kawhi and LeBron ahead of him.
That's fair enough. It's not the worst call there. As we move down, so we have Bojan.
Jeremy Lin's starting.
Jeremy Lin is starting. Yep.
It's a lock and load. It's just you.
Yeah, he's
plug in Jeremy. Yeah, you play Jeremy Lin and move on.
Yep. Next tier down, we have Bojan. We have Seti Osman, Joe Ingles, Jonathan Isaac. What's your thoughts on that tier?
I love Bojan and Seti. I think I would lean Bojan in a cash game, maybe just because Kevin Love is back. But, Seti's been really good in back-to-back games. Plus, he's getting the magic on the second night of a back-to-back. Both these guys are getting the team that they're playing on a back-to-back. So I think that's ideal for the both of them. I would lean Bojan slightly. He's just Bojan Konstantinovic.
Yeah.
He's their leading scorer. He's given us 30 fantasy points every night, minimum. So he's going to get us to nearly 5x literally every night. Seti may lose out in a couple minutes. He's been better with Kevin Love on the floor, so that's definitely a bonus. But the Jonathan Isaac defense thing really scares me because we've seen Jonathan Isaac be pretty incredible. Now, I guess it depends.
So here's my question:
if it's going to be Aaron Gordon or Jonathan Isaac,
right? Because they could move it around, and Kevin Love plays center at times, and Osman plays power forward. So it may not be Isaac the entire time,
which bodes well which obviously bodes better for Isaac. I mean, Aaron Gordon's a pretty good defender, so I was right. Isaac's
He's athletic, for sure.
Right. And Isaac's just a freak. He's 7 feet tall.
Where are you on the value at small forward tonight?
Jay Crowder's fine. I think Gordon Hayward is somewhat intriguing. I don't have this crazy desire to play him, but I think he's okay.
The minutes will be there. It's just, he played Sacramento, a couple games ago, without Kyrie Irving in that game, and he only had 12 points and 5 assists in the 29 minutes. So it wasn't like a huge game out of him, but he's still under $5,000. So he's back at home. Maybe there's that narrative too. And Sacramento's still Sacramento. So
I mean, every time we think Gordon Hayward is all right, he's played 3 games in a row of 28 to 30 minutes and he's on the rise, then it's Brad's you know what? Let's pump the brakes 20 minutes. So that's just always in the back of my mind, and it will be until they just kind of let him loose and go for an extended run, which I just don't think that's going to happen this year. I think kind of a GPP play, as I mentioned, the Denver-Dallas game. I think Will Barton could be someone just to consider for tournaments if you're game stacking. But I'm mostly going to be up top. I think Jay Crowder's nice. I think this middle tier and Osman Bojan is really nice. And then the value isn't really there for me. I think if Wiggins sits, I think Bates Diop obviously becomes a play. It's more of a DraftKings play. Or if you want to just, theoretically be all right, well, Wiggins hasn't played. Let me put him in a FanDuel. He'll be my drop if Wiggins plays. Same thing with Tyus. I did a whole little breakdown on the top of the playbook today. I didn't want to write every individual player out, so I just did basically a breakdown. But Tyus is an elite play if talent, or if Teague sits, if Teague and Rose and Wiggins sit. I mean, the same guys we used the other night. It's Towns, it's Tyus, it's Bates Diop. And I think the one play that I would consider if all of them sit was Cameron Reynolds. He played off the Minnesota bench, and he was one of the first guys off the bench the other night. Played 25 minutes. He's now played 18 to 25 in 3 straight games. 21 fantasy points. He can shoot the 3 ball. He hit 4 threes the other night. I think if all those guys are ruled out, I'd be willing to min-salary punt Cam Reynolds. Just throwing it out there if all of them are out. I'm not sold on Cam Reynolds. But
yeah, what do you think about Anunoby tonight?
I mean, I think there's more minutes to be had for basically everybody because no Ibaka means there's no backup power forward. So maybe Kawhi shifts to power forward and Anunoby comes to small forward, or
played
vice
22,
versa.
23, and 25 minutes the last 3. So the role's kind of expanding for him.
Right. And they need a backup Siakam is realistically the backup small forward. I mean, along with McCaw.
He's also the backup center.
Right, yeah. He's also the backup center, so now there's just holes everywhere. Backup small forward, backup power forward, who's going to play? So Anunoby could definitely get the run. McCaw could definitely get the run. That's, I guess, the question. We always thought, Norman Powell. And then Norman Powell never played. It was never Norman Powell. So the second unit with the Raptors is always a little tricky, but I can get behind it because he's definitely been in the rotation going recently.
Yeah. I mean, he was $3,600 on FanDuel, super cheap. And if you want his position breakdown this year, 75% power forward, 24% small forward, 2% center, and Siakam is 91% power forward, 8% center, and I don't know where the other percent went, but he's not.
It's just gone. It's just gone.
It's just gone. Yeah, he's just on the bench. All right, power forward at the top's Kevin Love. Comes back after sitting out the other night against Orlando. Where are you on Love, Siakam, Gordon, that top tier at power forward?
I think Love and Gordon will profile more as tournament play. I think you can play. So I think all 3 of them you could play in any format. Siakam probably makes the most sense now in cash games. I think you could do it on either. You can play them wherever. We talked about, this is the Minnesota Love. I think people are jumping on late. You were one of the first people to be all right, Kevin Love. And I think you could just pound that and the Kevin Love play for the rest of the year as long as he's playing 30 minutes.
Sure.
He's a monster. He's averaging 14 to 18 rebounds in the last 5 games. So even if the scoring's not there, he's getting the rebounds. Siakam obviously we know we've literally played him every time Serge Ibaka has been out, there's just more used to go around. Now there's no Ibaka and Kyle Lowry, so there's more shot attempts. Aaron Gordon, second night of a back-to-back, but he should still play 35 or so minutes. But I actually prefer Kyle Kuzma to Gordon. I think you can play Kuzma in all formats without, with this game getting kind of closer in point spread. I mean, now it's down to 8. So I do think there's some Lakers that are maybe viable in cash. I think Kuzma would probably be my favorite for like a cash game format. But from that mid-tier, those are probably like the 4 guys I'm really focusing in on.
That's fair enough. You mentioned, sort of the usage rates there with everybody off the floor. Now, obviously, we talk about, sample size and whatnot, but you're right. Overall, we have 1.24 fantasy points per minute for Siakam this year with Lowry, Ibaka, and Van Vliet off the floor. So, I mean, 23% usage rate, 1.24 fantasy points per minute. Just solid upside there for him. Very, very safe play. Where are you in the mid tier? For me, I have Kyle Kuzma in my starting 5 video. I have him kind of highly rated, but there's other guys in this mid tier as well. What are you looking at?
Yeah, so I mean, I just mentioned Kuzma, so I think he's like a solid play. I think Derek Favors, in theory, could be a good play since Minnesota generally plays 2 bigs. They usually have Towns Saric or Towns Gibson. So I think, like, theoretically, he could be a good play. I think Millsap, again, it's a completely a GPP option because we don't know if this game's going to stay close, but I think he's also in play. And then, like, one more mid-tier guy. I mean, like, I guess I'm interested to see, like, do you think – I don't know if they've released the minutes on Marvin Bagley, but, I mean, if he weren't limited for whatever reason, I'm sure he will be. He's been out for like 3 weeks. Just a theory, like, if he wasn't limited, Marvin Bagley, we saw him going for 40 every night. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, that's fine. Over at center, Karl-Anthony Towns is at the top. Probable to play tonight against Utah. Nikola Vucevic gets to Cleveland. Jokic gets Dallas. Gobert gets Minnesota. Towns not a great defender in his own right. Maybe Gimpy a little bit as well. We know where the chalk's going to be at center tonight. It's going to be at Marc Gasol. But if we're not playing Marc Gasol, like, what's your take on the center position?
So I am. So
I am too. Yep, you have to.
It's very challenging. Like, Jokic could go off. I mean, Dallas has been awful against every position. They're 29th in defensive rating since the All-Star break. They're 29th in rebounding. So, advantage Jokic. Basically checkmate. Like, Jokic could go for 70 tonight if this game stays close. Karl-Anthony Towns has gone for 60 fantasy points against Utah in multiple contests this year, averaging 57 against the very scary Rudy Gobert. Like, oh my God, Rudy Gobert, scary defender. Well, Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't matter. He's just in one of those grooves. Vucevic should dominate Cleveland, who's running out Zizic as starting center and then a smaller Kevin Love at power forward who's going to shift over to center. And even Marquise Chris, who's 6'9", might play minutes at center tonight. He's back. Vooch is only 92. He's going to probably go under the radar because 44 fantasy points last night, didn't get it done.
Right.
Let's just throw him to the wayside. So I think Vooch is an underrated tournament play. Gobert, as usual, is better on DraftKings. The price discrepancy is just always crazy. It's just always too cheap on DraftKings, always too expensive on FanDuel. I'm just going to throw this out there. I love Myles Turner tonight. Love him.
Okay. Against OKC? Against Steven Adams?
Yeah, it's funny because, like, we don't really target Steven Adams that much. But if you look at his splits this year, he's been significantly better at home. 6 more fantasy points per game at home for Myles Turner. And then you look at the last 4 games, 41, 58, had a bad game against Philly, but it was a blowout. 40 fantasy points. So he's gone for 40 in 3 of the last 4. And the most encouraging part is the 35, 36, 37 minutes in those games.
Sure.
So, and that's 2 of the games with Sabonis back. So for tournaments, look, everyone's playing Marc Gasol tonight. And then I think everyone's primary pivot is going to be to Al Horford, which I think is a great play. Mm-hmm. I am looking at Myles Turner where it's going to be 4% ownership, 5% ownership. There's we always know the block upside is there. I mean, he's going to be banging in the paint with Steven Adams, who doesn't, the block opportunity is going to be there. Paul George, Russell Westbrook attack the rim all the time. There's just so much opportunity for Myles Turner tonight, even against Steven. And now you're right, like Steven Adams could get him into foul trouble within 2 minutes.
It's not even foul trouble. I just think that Adams could limit the rebounding upside that Turner doesn't have a ton of rebounding upside as it is. But Adams is a very good rebounder.
You're right. And I do think there has been more upside, though, for Turner rebounding last 4 games. He's averaging 10.5. Maybe we're getting a better version of Myles Turner. Maybe we're getting the version that they signed to a max contract.
It's true.
Which is, it's a GPP play exclusively. Again, Horford is a fantastic play at a similar price. We saw him go for 1 million fantasy points against Sacramento, and we've attacked Sacramento ad nauseum this year at center position. So I think Horford's a great play, and Gasol is going to be the chalkiest play of the slate if it's not Jeremy Lin or if it's not the other 4 Toronto guys that you can honestly play in cash. But other than that, would you spend I think Gasol would probably be the lowest I'd go. Maybe Zizic, maybe McGee, but I don't think
Zizic is the lowest I'd go.
I don't even, but I guess I asked because I don't think we need to. And maybe Mason Plumlee if you're theorizing a blowout because he'd get blowout run. But
I just like the 34 minutes. I know Love's back and everything like that, but there's no Nance, so I still think Zizic is going to play a bunch of minutes against Vucevic. So 4,400 on FanDuel. Yeah, you don't need to punt center. It doesn't make really much sense to do so on this slate when there's other value, but I don't think Zizic is the worst play.
Yeah, no, it's not me saying he's the worst play. It was just, I don't know if it's necessary. Maybe just if you're trying to differentiate, go away from Gasol, right?
He'll be 1%. So.
yeah, he'll definitely, yeah.
All right, give me your GPP core tonight.
GPP core. I think in every lineup tonight, I'm gonna have Monty Morris, Jeremy Lin. I think in GPPs, it's in cash you go Kawhi. I think you pivot to LeBron in a tournament. Okay. And I think Kyrie in all formats is an elite play. So if I had to pick 3 players, it'd be Kyrie, Monty Morris, Jeremy Lin.
All right, I like it. Guys, that wraps up today's live stream. James and I will be in subscriber chat. James, lineups out yet?
Nope, coming out right now.
Lineups will be coming out now. Starting 5 videos already out. Playbooks out. Get us your questions. Roster locks in 26 minutes. We'll answer them there for you.
Later, guys.